Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, bots and cons, to Tech Talk, the officially unofficial Transformers TCG podcast. I'm joined, as always, by Scott of VectorSigma.info, and, well, I've said this before on other shows, but strap in, everybody, because we got spoilers coming out of our ears. I got my props ready. My desk is covered in toys, because this is going to be kind of a long one. So, Scott, before we dive in, how did our other co-hosts event go?
Oh, it was fun.
Good.
They're tired, so I don't think we'll hear them tonight.
Well, that means it was fun, obviously, because if they got worn out, I know that's the sign of a good time for a puppy.
Yeah.
So that's good news. So I guess without too much intro, there are a couple things to go over. Specifically, by the time you're hearing this, if you're not watching it live, it's going to be Origins week. So
the week of, yeah.
The week, yeah. You'll be hearing about Origins very shortly if you're hearing this. So Scott, as a quick prep, anything you wanted to cover ahead of time, either news stuff like OP stuff, strategy stuff, or just general Vector Sigma stuff that you wanted to bring up before we dive into the reviews?
So we plan to try to do, I guess these we describe them as nightly videos or nightly podcasts on site. So a few of our teammates will be getting in on Thursday night, and then Dan and I will be getting in on Dan and I will be getting on Thursday night, so we won't be able to play on Thursday morning when it starts. But Mark and Palmer and a couple others will be there Thursday to play in the event on Thursday. So we'll just talk to them about how Thursday went when we eventually get in. And then we're playing Friday and Saturday. Already signed up for all the events on Friday and Saturday. So, but we planned to do podcasts every night and release them right away to just give people an idea of what the tournaments were like, what the metagame was like, how we did on the day, how other people did on the day, how many people were there. And then obviously we're trying to, as best as possible, talk to as many players that we know. So if you want to come up to us, it shouldn't be hard to spot us if you know what we look like at all. But we're going to do player interviews as best as possible, depending on what the acoustics are like on site, because that can be a challenge.
Right.
Filming games may be difficult just because of, again, the acoustics and the setup, but we have permission to. We have our press passes and all that. So just during the actual event, I would say at the minimum, look for stuff to be posted on a nightly basis, just a recap of the day. And we may just save some of the additional footage for additional content throughout the next month, just because of how busy it may be. But hopefully we'll get, do well, and then we can open siege packs or do whatever we want, things like that. So there'll definitely be enough going around. We'll maybe have some interviews with pastimes, things like that.
Awesome.
I don't know. I don't think actual WotC people are going to be at Origins like they will at Gen Con.
It sounded like when we spoke with Drew that they were not going to be.
Right. So John from Pastimes will be there again, so we can definitely talk to him again. So
of course. And then the following week, I'm assuming everybody out there should expect a whole bunch of coverage from the event. Is that the game plan right now?
Yeah, hopefully it'll go well, and then there'll be plenty to talk about.
There's definitely going to be a lot to talk about regardless, but
there'll be a lot to talk about regardless. Yeah.
So it's really exciting. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make the trip, but obviously I'm rooting for everybody out there, and I know myself as well as a number of people are going to be anxiously awaiting to see how the results shake out. So, I guess with that we can get right into it. Unless you had anything else you want to cover, Scott.
No, the only thing I'll say is I know for probably a large percentage of the listening audience, if not, and definitely a large percentage of the game playing audience, the tournament at Origins kind of represents, it doesn't really mean much to them because it's the end of a format that they're not even going to be playing in, and a new set is around the corner. But I think the main thing to take away is that this will be the first time with sideboards. This will be the first time organized play best of 3, first time for
there's definitely notable things to pick up on, even if the card pool is going to change.
Timed rounds, things that I think whatever coverage there is of the event in addition to ours, which I'll make sure that we and I'm sure everybody else will, on the team as well, is to kind of show the difference in how it was at the casual, like at the I guess I'll call it casual competitive level versus the ultra competitive level that this will start. And at the minimum, the 3 large events will be, but I would imagine that the qualifier system will hold that as well, because as we talked about at length last time, it's just, and this has been echoed by other people that I've talked to as well, like just the difficulty in qualifying for the main event, especially if you plan on only attending the event if you are qualified, as opposed to like, I'm going to take my chance at a last chance qualifier or something like that. Like, it just seems like if you're not able to go to one of these major conventions again, it's going to be a difficult road. So
Absolutely.
you should take it as much as possible, even if you're not able to go, because it's not just about the format; it's about the response to the competitive environment, I guess, is another thing you could take away.
Right. Yeah, the structure of the event and the atmosphere are going to be equally important, or at least, if not equally, then certainly a significant role going forward.
Yeah, and I think the potential for the non-regional aspect of the players playing in the event, which will probably be echoed in the other, definitely in the final, like Energon Invitational, but most likely at Gen Con as well. I think I can't draw conclusions until there's results, but I'm curious to see what the effect of those, your playtesting groups and how your access to other players and things like that bears out.
It's definitely a interesting observation, because I'm sure this is where you were going with it, Scott, but in other games that I've played, and ones that you've played as well, it's the local and regional and or even national environments can vary greatly, even with the essentially the same exact parameters, so the same format, the same tournament structure, but you'll have 2 groups end up saying, well, we both found the best thing, and they'll end up looking wildly different. So it's going to be very, very interesting to follow.
Yeah, I plan to gather as much data as I possibly can to try to look at these results from different angles. So like whether it's the cards, not just, in addition to just the cards being played, like the nature of the players, the region that they're from. Like I plan to look at this with a fine-tooth comb and just try to come up with some ideas.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that can be gleaned from that data. So I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing those things come out of the events. I can figure out a way to finish that sentence quickly enough. Sorry.
All good.
So any other details before we dive in?
No, Siege, War for Cybertron Siege is right around the corner. So, I guess for the audience that isn't going to Origins or doesn't have any major events over the next month, like that's probably why we're already diving heavily into the review season. Even more than we have in the past, just because we know that there's an event. We only have a month before Gen Con, so
right.
The next major one of these, you turn around and it's probably the first. There might be some stores having qualifiers during July, and they're
right.
But I think from a constructed standpoint, even though there may be a couple tournaments here and there, it'll probably be the premier launch.
To borrow a term from the fighting game community, majors, I guess we could call them.
Yeah.
As opposed
it'll be the major that heavily features this set, because I believe by the time the Energon Invitational, there'll probably be another set, Siege 2 or something like that. So.
I would expect that, given the time frame.
Or at least, and at the minimum, like another whatever, like Metroplex type deck. So
for sure, and it does seem to be again referencing Magic. It at least in recent years, it seemed to be that Wizards was interested in helping promote the newest thing by having a closely related major event sort of thing outside of pre-releases. Like an actual competitive thing. I don't know if that's still the case, but it was at one time. So.
Yeah, I think they named the Pro Tours over after the sets. So I would not be surprised when we walk into Gen Con if there's like Siege everywhere and like nothing necessarily about like that. Because Gen Con is such a major thing, like there will be information about future releases. But I'm sure Siege will be the main focus. So.
Right. So speaking of Siege, this is actually our first spoiler-focused show where we have knowledge about the fact that sideboards are going to exist. So that is definitely going to influence some of our conversations, and not that the previous ones are necessarily invalid, but certainly there's new light to shed on previous cards.
Sure.
Since we have so many today, we're clearly not going to review all the old ones, at least at this time, pending the schedule of once Scott and everybody gets back from Origins, excuse me. We'll have to see what we're going to do with, final thoughts before Siege actually is in people's hands versus event recap and things like that. But we'll play it by ear, so stay tuned, everybody. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to break. What was that, Scott?
We'll do like top 10 lists and stuff.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We're going to try and get all that in. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to break this up. So if you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube or anything like that, definitely check out part 2, episode 2 for this one, because we're gonna try and get through this one, folks. So like I said earlier, strap in. I have my caffeine. It's gonna be a long night. Here we go.
I don't think it'll be that bad, but okay.
Well, we'll see. So our first one up, we're gonna start with the characters, and this is Private Stakeout. So this came from Big Angry Trev. It's another rescue patrol. But this guy gives you rapid conversion as part from his tap ability.
It's a truck, right? Or
he's a specialist car.
Specialist car. And what are his stats?
350 alt and 251 in bot. Specialist in both, which does sometimes matter.
Yeah. It has use.
He's only 4 stars, so it immediately gives him a whole lot of extra options because it's a little bit easier to squeeze him in. That 21 and then find a 4-star setup seems to be coming up more as I'm brainstorming things. But it's interesting because rapid conversion seemed to be a staple on day 1 or day 0 and then has basically been phased out. So do you care about rapid conversion on a stick?
I didn't before, but to be honest with you, when I was writing my preview article for Top Shot, something kind of and this didn't click for me when I was doing my thoughts on combiners, but the fact that the Micromaster's abilities don't cost you one of your other action phases means that you can do you can do another thing in the turn.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to think of it that way. What would I do with an extra flip? And there's things like Grimlock gives himself both 3 real easily and still gets to play an action. That's a big one. The new Shockwave gets to do his ability and maybe draw into one of the other 2 things that he wasn't, and technically gets access to 2 more cards.
Yeah.
I think there's just and you can do insane combos with that and the UFO card and things like that. So I think that there is solid use for him. I just don't know how many characters are going to be dependent on flipping as an extra ability. I think he's probably pretty decent with the new Megatron. He would be decent with Starscream Air Commander, but he's not a plane, so I think that's where it's going to fall out. I don't really care that he's a car. So I think this one will have use more than I thought initially, just because, again, the fact that it's an extra thing you can do, and sure, his survivability is extremely low, but all that really matters is that he soaks up that attack. Them using an attack on him is an attack that they're not using on clearly somebody that's better.
Right.
So that's the big issue.
My concern with this guy, well, there are a couple things. I agree with you that getting effectively an extra action every turn that you use him anyway, is pertinent. The one major issue that I have with him, as you said, was the survivability, so that 1 definitely has to count. 2 is this guy in particular, because it requires white pips, you're now going to have to skew your deck to make sure that you can actually play one. So a lot of things may only run a handful of them and maybe you actually want to play them. Obviously, you'd be building with this in mind, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something to keep in mind, as opposed to the blue or orange ones where it's, okay, well, probably every card in your deck is that specific color. The white pips are a little bit more of a rarity.
Yeah, that's fair. I would have expected the white ones, or especially the black ones, to be a little more powerful because of how they're like, those aren't the primary colors, for lack of that, which I used in another podcast. So, a better term. So.
These, I mean, I get it because rapid conversion is kind of a marquee ability or action. So it makes sense that there's a rapid conversion guy. I agree with you that you could do funny things with either, shockwaves or grimlocks or various other flips. I feel I'm thinking back to Rise of Combiners, that just like when we first saw star cards and how much is a star worth? Okay, well, is guaranteeing having a rapid conversion worth 4 stars? Or would it be easier? Yes, you may have gotten to 21 stars and then, okay, here's my 4 guy. Would it have been better to reconfigure it to make it to 25 or to get to 23 and then play 2 star cards? I'm not entirely sure yet.
I mean, I like the fact that any character is going to still get you that draw phase, still get you that action phase, still be able to wield upgrades and use actions. So,
they have the potential to, yeah. But if you're, say, setting up that Grimlock example that you'd had, that's the Grimlock turn. So this guy is not going to get you that extra.
No, that's fair. But I mean, there might be situations where that doesn't happen.
Oh yes, of course, and because he's a body, and yes, you don't have to do it.
Right.
So it definitely makes it interesting. I'll be curious going forward how many of them it matters more for their stealth ability, just for the sake of, okay, well, you can't get this guy.
Right. Which I talked about in the top article. Yeah.
So it's. I just wanted to bring it up again because it's another point, obviously pertinent to discuss.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Also, shout out to Stakeout for showing up in the comics. That's about all I got for him.
Cool.
Moving on from there, we have Sergeant Scrapnel from Lisa Marie. I'm not... The artwork's cool on this guy, at least on the bot mode. I'm not super enthusiastic about the alt mode, where he's 4/11/2 Brave for 9 stars.
What's our safe word going to be for move on to the next card? Whatever that one.
Scrapnel.
We'll use it.
All right. We'll move on. Sorry, everybody. Normally we'd spend a lot of time on these, but we do have a lot to get through, and there's not a whole lot positive to say about them. So rather than beat the horse to a pulp,
we need the old school 80s Autobot Decepticon symbol when they change scenes.
Oh yeah,
we need that.
Yeah,
we need that thing.
I'll have to get that. I'll have to see if we can get that. Okay.
Yeah.
So next up is Raider Runabout, who, as Scott had rightly said in the Vector Sigma Discord, one of my favorite guys. I just love Runabout and Run Amok because they're goons. I should have them side by side because they do interrelate, basically. Whenever you flip one, it flips the other one. One lets you draw, one lets you heal each of them. One's ranged. Went a little too far. One is specialist, and then obviously they're both cars. We had, in the Vector Sigma Discord, we were talking about it. I personally feel, and Scott, tell me if you feel this way, I think these are overcosted simply because the assumption is that they're actually 5/15 twos instead of 5/13 twos.
Why the extra? Because of the repair?
Yeah, so because at 10 stars each, it feels like a lot. I don't think there's a viable, at least not that I can think of right now. We do still have a few battle cards that haven't been revealed, but their attacks seem too low to really get it done in blue shells. I feel like they want to be orange. I mean, I'm open to being wrong, and I really do want to play these guys, and they seem fun because you're flipping a million times, but I don't know. Are you enthused by these guys?
I mean, they have the same problem that like the 10-11 star range always seems to be this like nothingness of like
Yeah.
You have around 5 attack, and you have around this many hit points, and you have around this many defense, and it's always like, I mean,
to be fair, their health and defense is as big or bigger than Dinobots, so that's something. But you're right that it's whatever the stat breakdown is that ends up with this, it's always kind of just middling, and it's not. I'm really super excited to play them.
Right. Like, so, like, what is... Like, if they're both in bot mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you... On one, you flip whatever one of them, and they're both in bot mode. Every time you flip, they're both in whatever. So, if you play a Start Your Engines, does that even help you? Besides untapping one of them? Like, does that... Like, because they would both be flipped anyway, right? Like, you draw one card, and you don't even heal, or... Like, you don't do both abilities, right?
So... I'm looking to run amok right now. When you flip to this mode, draw a card, and it's when you flip to bot mode, draw a card, and then if you have runabout on the field, flip him from alt to bot. So they both end up in bot mode. So then you play Start Your Engines. They both flip, so you don't, like, the extra flip from flipping runabout doesn't do anything, but then you repair
one from both.
Correct. And then you get your untaps, obviously, or untap.
And then the one that repaired is the one that wants to attack in the alt mode, and the other one is the one that wants to attack in the bot mode, right?
Correct.
I mean,
it's fine, but I don't see how. My issue right now, I initially thought to myself, okay, I'll run it in blue, use the heals and the untaps to try and elongate their lifespan. But if you go against another blue deck, you're now 10-10. Your 5 is probably like Flame War or something. You're just going to do 0 damage.
I think you have to find a partner that wants to flip because you're getting easy flips from these guys.
Possibly, yeah.
So, like, if you have another character that, like, either... Because flipping these guys back and forth all the time is really not going to do much. Like, it's going to repair one from them, and it's going to draw one card. Like, it's not going to... I mean, I know they're both flipping, but that's not doing a whole lot. So... that's the problem, is, like, I just don't see, like, where that's... I can see on turn 1 where that's interesting. I just can't really understand, like, why that matters beyond that, so...
I would agree.
Like, I don't get what the... Like, they're just very middling to me.
Yeah, I just don't... That's basically it. I could see maybe playing them in orange, since we now have all the characters. We can go back and evaluate them and say, okay, is there a new 5-star or 4-star and a star card that makes it happen? But I really think if you play them in blue, barring a hypothetical blue weapon or something that we haven't seen yet, which matters for them, you're probably just never going to push enough damage against, say, aerial bots or 3Y primes or, future blue build. And against orange stuff, you may still not
eat like anybody else.
What was that?
Whatever. Put Energon Axe on them, they're an 8, just like anything else.
Well, yes, but that you could make that same argument, like you said, for anything else. So why not do that something else where it's fine without the Energon Axe? Is where I'm going.
Yeah, I just don't think their flips are good enough. Like, that's basically what you're looking at, and because their stats are basically equal to other guys at their cost or lower. Yeah. So I really don't see what the advantage is.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm hoping there's something there, but even though I'm holding my G1 guy right now and my Transformers Collectors Club, the only one Transformers Collectors Club toys I ever got, I just don't see it happening. But you never know. Stranger things, right?
Yep.
So moving from there, we have Sergeant Hound, who I'm looking at my topic list and it's out of order, so apologies, everybody. Sergeant Hound is blank in alt mode, and when you upgrade him, he gets +2 attack until end of turn. He's a 4/13/1 in bot mode for 9 stars, and we had said this offline, so correct me if you feel differently now, Scott, but it's like, that's a lot of effort you're going to have to put in to make this a thing.
Yeah, so the turn you want to attack with him, I guess he should be a 6/13/1 plus the weapon for 9, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not awful. It's what's his defense in alt mode?
1. So he's 5/13/1 and blank text box on alt.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. Like,
yeah, it's another one where clearly there was a trade-off in stats, and although I think we are seeing a trend upward in health, which a lot of people had said in Wave 1 they kind of want to they'd hope to see down the line. Overall, I'm not. It feels like right now you're just going to have to invest a ton of effort to make it anything, or like you said, you get the one attack. I don't know that. I'm not seeing it right now. I could be wrong.
I mean, I'm not going to like attack drone 3 times and get to be 10 and whatever. And
I'll be honest, I seriously forget attack drone as a card until someone says it.
Or the other armor that got spoiled today. Like,
yes,
I don't see myself doing a bunch of that kind of stuff. But I think you would need to. Like, that's the type of deck that he wants to be in. Like, I think.
I mean, you get the new design Micromaster. New designs itself, you don't get swindled because he's an Autobot.
Right. He could be a combo by himself to start out essentially at like, before we even put the weapon on him at like 10. I think that's not unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what you have to build towards. And so, like, I just don't know if he had 2, even if he just had 2 defense, I could get behind it. But
right.
The 1 defense, I mean, you don't have to expose him. And
of
you
course.
know, and at 9 he won't take up like that much. So I would say he probably has fringe potential, just because I think that there will be some kind of combo. I just don't know if it'll matter, because the way I look at, and I've said this before, like in other situations, like getting a bunch of attack, like when you aren't Grimlock and you attacking a guy is just attacking a guy. Like you're probably going to be just be in an overkill situation most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess if the meta shifts to where like there's a bunch, like there could be decks that have like a couple middling guys that you need to essentially do like, 14 or 15 combined damage, then I can see where like this you might be getting a slight discount with him at 9. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I love all kinds of Thundercracker builds, so I won't say that I don't like this guy, because I can see like what you're describing. I don't know, something in the back of my head, something about it being upgrades makes it different to me, but maybe that's just silly.
No, I know. Like I think what's interesting is like people assume it's easier to do more actions, but it's not that much harder to do more upgrades, especially if you use like multi-tool and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I mean, you can't put it on him, the multi-tool, that's the problem. But like,
yeah,
which I'm sure is intentional, but like there are ways to do it. And like that being said, like it's possible that he could overswing compared to his cost. And even at a base 6 for 9, like, yes, I mean, he's under Wheeljack, but like, he's under Wheeljack when how much damage he should do, but like, Wheeljack is such an all-star that like that's
a tough bar to pass.
Right. Like I still think he's like at that star cost, like he's like at this point he's competing with the new Ironhide, like which I think is fair. But I think this guy might have just like, again, like if the meta shifts to something that has like middling guys, he's a decent chance of like doing a giant attack.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. I don't know if it's one of those, the cards aren't here yet, or maybe I just need to look a little bit harder. I'm not going to write it off because there's no cap on it. We've already seen that there are ways to do obscene things, even though Wizards had addressed it. There's always the potential that it's not necessarily going to be to that extreme, but that maybe this is a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, I mean, I discounted him for a while, but I think he actually has potential just because he has the built-in, like the +2 built into him on any one turn means like he should be swinging typically like he should be a 9.
Yeah.
Like with a weapon on him, which is still going to probably be better than most non-Wheeljack.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to see where he ends up. Being melee, I guess, isn't great. As we've talked about before on other shows, so
probably not. Yeah.
We'll have to. I mean, he gets Energon Slingshot.
Yep.
That's one of my pet cards now. So, moving from there, we have Trigger Happy, who I know somebody in our Discord, I don't remember who, was laughing at the name, but he does kind of epitomize the. I mean, Trigger Happy is actually a term, but noun verber for Transformer names. He's actually, I think this guy's interesting if nothing else, and he's also a really cool toy. That's why I made sure that I dug him out before the show. I'm a little disappointed that he doesn't have his faceplate and the rest of the molding that he has on the head in the art, but can't have everything. He's an 8-star plane, obviously ranged across the board. 212-2, Pierce 4 in bot, and 312-2, but has rare Megatron from Wave 1's ability to return a weapon when you flip to it in alt mode. So we have a larger Alpha Bravo, kind of, coming back at us.
Yeah, which, again, this is another guy that I first had dismissed, but the big issue that you have to think about is when you have Inborn Pierce, and so few characters actually do of a decent number that's not like, Starter Windblade.
Irrelevant amounts.
Right. So, like, when you're starting to have built-in Pierce 3, 4, it's what happens when you then give them another weapon that Pierce on top of it. And now suddenly you're talking about, like, guaranteed large amounts of damage.
5 Pierce 6 is, that's pretty threatening.
Right. So, if you were to build the grids that I like, the high-low.
I should have stole that as a... Let me... You keep talking. I'm going to see if I can find it real quick in Discord.
So when you have that much guaranteed damage against other defensive decks, for the star cost, it's going to be above the curve because, if you think about it logically, in order to do... Let's just say you give him an Energon Axe, right? So he's going to be, a 5 Pierce 6. So he's going to do, even if he's in a blue deck, he's going to do 5 damage. So if you're going against a defensive deck at all, and they're defending 4, let's just say, like nothing unrealistic, you have to do 9. So, like, what 8 drops can, like, get to 9 attack pretty easily? Like,
well, I was about to say the previous preview card, but then you said 8 drops, so...
Yeah. So that's the problem. So that's where his use comes into play, is that he's always going to do that amount of damage. So, he essentially, if it was an orange deck, will always have, I don't think he would see a lot of use in an orange deck, but that would help you get to the the Pierce number you need.
Right.
I think he's probably pretty good just because of the positive experience I've had with Alpha Bravo.
Yeah.
His flip is not irrelevant. I mean, his flip still gets back a weapon, which means you're never going, anytime he's in alt mode and you have you don't need to use another flip. I mean, he will get the weapon you need for the character that you need to play it on.
Exactly. The flip density is going to be a challenge with him, though, because just from picturing what else he's going to have to be partnered with, and clearly you're going to, well, maybe not clearly, because it's a hypothetical, but whoever those other bots are, you're going to want what's the word I'm trying to find? I'll just say generally, because I can't think of something else at the moment. You're going to want them to be swinging in bot mode, so it does make it a little clunky to get there. Unless you're saying like post wheel, you can go get that weapon, obviously. But
I just think not an emergency, but any character like this, like Optimus or like Megatron, when I played him, it does open up your scrap pile as a toolbox. So,
absolutely,
it's not an irrelevant ability. It's a very good ability on 8-drop. His survivability still seems a little bit low to me, but if he has 2 defense, it should be okay.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about who to pair him with, because he's clearly a defensive deck card. But 8 can be the new 7 with 13 drops, with 4-star Battle Masters making up for the 5 drops. So, he pairs really well with the new Megatron.
Right.
So, I think he will see play, because his ability is just so, I can't think of another word besides just his ability is so obvious. I don't know. He does what he's supposed to do, which is do 4 damage, which is what you want. So.
Which is weird, especially given the the Alpha Bravo comparison because I, at least me, maybe you were already ahead because you usually are, but like when we first saw him, I'm like, yeah, well, clearly you're gonna do this, but it just didn't dawn on me at the time that like, well, that's still pretty good, I guess. And by this, I mean throw a field communicator on him, or in this case, probably armed hovercraft since he's ranged. Getting him to actually fully utilize the Pierce may be easier than people might think.
Yeah, the difference with the aerial bot deck is that like the way that deck works is Alpha Bravo is just like another piece of direct damage. Where here, because it's 8 stars instead of 5, like you need to make that work for you. And right. I don't know if that's in a 4-character deck or in a 3-character. I don't know if a 3-character deck is enough to quote make that work.
Yeah,
we'll have to see. But like, I think he could be like a middling piece in a 4-character, for example, pretty easily, and then you would have that same situation where like his guaranteed damage combines with I don't know like other actions and upgrades you're doing from other characters and etc. And then like he just finishes the job when he gets
right. Yeah, he's the closer. Do you actually have the card up in front of you right now, Scott?
No.
Okay, you're gonna have to look at it later because all I can think looking at his bot mode is like 80s action movie cover.
Okay.
With like explosions going off behind him or like dollar bin DVD kind of things. And he's like fist bumping you in the picture as opposed to like it's supposed to be a punch, I guess, but it looks like he's just going for a fist bump.
Does he look like a Tetrajet, or is he the weird other thing that he...
No, he looks like, I mean, I don't want to say a normal jet, because it's not but it's not a Tetrajet.
Okay.
Yeah, I do like this guy. I'm a sucker for trying to make planes work, and it has 2 enticing abilities on each form, so...
Yeah.
I'm optimistic, but we'll see. Speaking of planes and Tetrajets, we have Captain Starscream. He's interesting. He's 12 stars in alt mode. He's 4/16/2, and when you flip to that mode, you can deal 1 damage to an enemy that has no upgrades. The other mode is 6/16/1, and when an upgrade is scrapped from an enemy, you hit him for 1. Obviously you're getting free damage off of flipping them back and forth, but hypothetically you could do it with the other Starscream. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be easier, really. And you're encouraged to flip him back and forth because clearly you want to attack in bot mode. But 12 stars is a lot. You're always excited by direct damage, so hype me on this card. Or are you not hyped by it?
I just wish he had 2 defense. Like his 1 defense really hurts him.
It's
so
concerning.
At 12 stars, we're back to like a blue deck slant because of how many stars you're investing in a character. And like, I can't imagine a blue deck featuring a character that has 1 defense. Like it just seems so weak to me. It's going to come down to how much his incremental damage makes a difference. Like, it's going to add up and kind of like, it's like no one remembers the first point of damage that you took when you bashing shielded that armor, but like all of a sudden you'll be dead.
Right.
And like by an extra point, and like that 1 point of damage in the beginning mattered. So obviously it's not insignificant. Like turning any of your upgrade removal into zaps as well, it is fine. 6 attack is good. 16 hit points is good. Just 1 defense is so bad that like that might just hold him back. His flip ability is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of irrelevant to me. Like clearly the idea is that you kill the last upgrade on the same turn that you flip. So like you're getting like a plasma burst out of the deal, basically. Which is not irrelevant.
Turning 1 shell stands into 4 damage or 5 damage, if you like you said, the bashing shield example is potentially a thing.
Like if you play an upgrade that kills an upgrade, so if you bashing shield or you enforcement batons and you like you said, and you 1 shell stand and you flip, that's not a bad turn. But I guess the problem is that I guess there's just not a lot of characters just flip to do a damage, but it's not as universal as I would like, because it can't hit every target whenever you want.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, clearly I can see him, paired with like Barrage, because you're going to want to like turn on his ability, and then like a 5 or 6 drop from there. So I think it's going to come down to like whether or not like a 3 wide, or I guess really small character 4 wide orange deck. Because I just can't see where he's going to see playing a blue deck. Because you obviously need shields, you obviously need enforcement batons, to get these type of plays. Like, does his damage actually add up enough over time across the team? Like the splash damage to actually matter? And I'm not sure the answer. Is he a leader also?
No, I'm not sure. Yeah, so you can't even do the callous leadership play. It sounds enticing to turn Bashing Shields and Enforcement Batons into Zaps, but I don't know many decks that I really wanted to play 9 Zaps in. Now, granted, they're green Zaps, but at the same time, I'm kind of in agreement with you. It feels as though it's going to want to be orange. You do get access to his Null Ray, so hypothetically, you can pour on a lot of damage.
That's true, yeah.
So you could run, say, this guy, the 5-star Starscream, and then, fill it out however, just so you have multiple targets, kind of like the old 3-wide builds with Baby Optimus. And then just start zapping things left and right. Maybe that is a thing. It sounds like a stretch just because Zap is fine, but it's not like, oh yeah, I drew another Zap.
It's just incremental damage. It just depends on whether or not like you can get the numbers to where that matters. And we're also in a world where hit points have gone up, as you mentioned before, on some other characters. So it may not be as relevant anymore. Combat damage may be, like, giant stacks of damage may be more relevant, and 1 damage for killing an upgrade may not do anything against these, like, giant health pool characters. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, their ability to sponge is going to be a challenge for this, just because you said it, the giant packets may be relevant because it's not a matter of poking them down to finish it off when they have 1 or 2 health left. It's going to be, okay, well, I need to get him for 5, so it doesn't matter that I did the 1 damage to him.
And he is one of the characters with a giant health pool, so I mean, like, it may be, he may be correctly costed because of, we just aren't used to seeing health pools that big.
Yes.
On, quote, such low star guys, but I mean, 16 is a lot, so.
Yeah,
he's a nemesis that has an ability build.
Yes.
He's a nemesis that, like, has 1 less defense, that doesn't get larger and can do splash damage.
So he's nothing like Nemesis.
I mean,
you're getting farther away from the comparison.
16 hit points.
Yeah, I know. It's just funny because you're like, oh, but what about this other thing that's different? Oh yeah, and this other thing that's different.
I mean, that's where I think, like, you're going to slot him in versus. So I think
right.
decision's going to come into play. So.
Yeah, no, I get where you're going. It was just funny the way it sounded.
No, I hear you.
I think he may actually, for his star cost and abilities and everything, I think he would have better stats if his name wasn't Starscream, simply because of the Null Ray.
Yeah, that's fair.
I could certainly see a meeting where this guy had 7 attack or had more defense or whatever, and somebody said, well, or they played a test game and someone slammed a Null Ray and goes, well, he's 7 attack, bolt 2 before we do anything else. That could be a problem.
Yeah.
It's definitely giving me food for thought, because I do seriously want to try the Starscream Air Commander build just for the sake of it. Whether it turns out to be good, we'll see, but it has direct damage, so it at least piques my interest.
Yeah.
Moving from Captain Starscream, we have Private Sideswipe, who, well, let me just read him. I was going to try and sum it up real quick, but I'm not really. Yeah. So 211-1, he's 8 stars. When you flip to alt mode, he gets +2 attack until end of turn for each character in your KO area. And in bot mode, he's 411-1. When one of your characters is KO'd during an opponent's turn, untap him. So untapping's pretty good, but is this guy, or do you think this guy is any good, Scott?
it's on your opponent's turn, so like if he's tapped, they're just gonna attack him, right? Like I really don't feel like having to play the stealth card on this guy.
Yeah. So timing wise, not to break your train of thought, but does this fall into that weird Dreadwing scenario where if their last guy KOs one of your guys and he untaps,
you get another turn.
You do get another turn?
Because you don't die in a turn. There's still like you die during the combat phase, so you're definitely gonna untap.
Okay.
Yeah.
As opposed to, because I should pull up Dreadwing to check the wording, because I thought that was also added.
You combine at the end of turn.
Gotcha. So it's already past that window.
Yeah, you're already past that point.
Sorry, I broke your train of thought.
No, I mean his survival stats are really bad.
Yeah.
I don't understand how he's possibly going to survive to ever attack get his ability off more than once in a round.
You got me.
Like because he has to be tapped, so it means that like he can be a target again unless he has like a stealth card or you have a brave character. So I just feel like you're going to be putting a lot of work into an 8-star character that you obviously need to have some kind of permanent weapon on to make his ability worth it, or else you're constantly playing sure, if you have like running grenade plane, but like
there are a lot of decks that if you had runner grenade launchers,
right, getting to untap a 3 attack guy is not going to be that interesting. I mean,
yeah.
I mean you can't ignore any ability that's going to give you an untap, but at the same time, like I don't think you're really actually going to get the ability off enough to be able to depend on him for his star cost. Like I feel like if he would have cost 7, he would have been so much better. But like
it also, outside of the brave or stealth on him and only one other guy scenario, it's your opponent can play around it too. That's not something to be ignored. So it presumably you're in a 3-wide at least scenario. Your opponent could either just attack Sideswipe or the third guy to spread the damage, which does influence their play, but clearly if your deck is trying to, if you put Sideswipe on the table, your opponent's going to go, oh, well, that guy's got to be important. I'm probably not going to let him untap.
Yeah, and I feel like, I guess you can do the whole, like, start your engines with a bunch of dead guys, flip them back to the other mode, but I just feel like that's terrible. So, like, I feel like his get bonus for the KO guy thing is pretty terrible. So,
in order, he has 2 attack in that mode, so you need a lot of dead guys. Like, yeah, like why wouldn't you just play Cliff Jumper in that scenario?
I thought he cost 7 for some reason, so he's just way worse at 8.
Yeah, I'm not super enthused about Sideswipe, but it is what it is. What was that, Scott?
It's the fact that he's just like so middling again that like not a huge fan.
Well, I mean, they're not all going to be Optimus Prime Battlefield Legends, so
no, that's fair.
So our last one for the character section, again, stay tuned for part 2, actually came out a couple hours ago, not even, and that's Private Taraxodon.
This is the last character in the set, period, right? We've had everything.
Correct, else. Yeah, so that's why I was saying earlier, we can now, I feel the OCD in me, as far as like having to have it completed, okay, now I feel comfortable going back and reviewing everything on the side again. Because otherwise it was just maybe that one last character, even though that's kind of silly, because But anyway, so Private Taraxodon, another Battle Master, he's melee, 3/9/0, and he's blank at 6 stars. But his weapon mode is +3 attack, and when the upgraded character attacks and you flip at least 2 white pips, the defender's base defense becomes 0 during this battle. And then the usual Battle Master thing is if it leaves the battlefield, goes to KO. I kind of like this guy. Are you enthused about him?
He costs 6 for a +3, so I mean, 6 is a terrible spot right now.
Yes.
Like outside of like Insecticons that have playable 6s, like I mean, who your playable sixes right now? Starter Bumblebee or is it Common Bumblebee? I don't even know which one it is.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
And like, Demolisher.
That's the one that comes to mind. But you said playable, and I'm like, yeah, that one. It's I don't know about that one.
Like, I was considering playing the other Battlemaster, like that becomes like essentially the Ion Blaster of Prime, thinking that was going to be like the standard at the 6-drop. But like, this is just so much better.
So, do you anticipate that? Because I think this is where everybody's thinking. Do you care more about the fact that it's just 3, or do you think you're actually going to build towards trying to get the ability to go off? Or did somebody in chat actually just mentioned it as a sideboard option? But of those, where do you picture you're taking this guy?
I mean, any Battlemaster deck should have Quartermaster in it, which is a white.
Of course.
So you only really need to fit in like either.
I guess it depends on how much bold you have too.
Consoles. Yeah, it depends on like what your other whites are. I don't think it'll be unrealistic, obviously, to and like field communicators and things like that. Like, it won't be unrealistic to get it, but like if you think about it that way, all you're really then the weapon obviously like anytime it goes off, the weapon becomes above average because unless you're attacking a guy with 0 defense, which there aren't that many of them that really see play,
right?
Outside of like Shrapnel, you're becoming a permanent grenade launcher or better,
right?
When you actually get the ability to go off, but like the card is fine without the ability. I wouldn't necessarily build for the ability. There's no double white card, so it's going to make it difficult. Obviously, like it's not as powerful. Well, it kind of is, but like it's almost as powerful as the triple blue guy, which becomes a 6 essentially with 3 direct damage and plus 3 attack for 2 more stars. So like, I wouldn't want to build to the double white just because you don't want to have that many whites in your deck. But like, I think if you just by the way get it, I think it's very good.
Yeah.
I guess it's a long way of saying I would play enough whites in your deck to occasionally get it off.
Okay.
If that's possible. But I wouldn't necessarily play I wouldn't want to mess up my combat math just for the sake of playing whites. So
I guess that would depend on if you're expecting as a meta call that there are enough high defense decks that warrant it, because then you're not technically messing up your combat math, I guess, if that's what you're expecting to face all day.
I mean, it turns your whites into oranges, right? I mean, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So
that's exactly why I'm looking at it from that direction. Right. I mean, it's still so presumably you're 3 wide, maybe 4. This is only going to end up on one guy. You still have other bots that need to still do stuff in combats. So it's to your point, it's not necessarily you want to load up on white pips because then, well, guess what? You may be in a bad spot because those other guys are they're swinging pool noodles.
Yeah, but there are decks that that just by accident play a bunch of whites, so it's not.
Oh, of course,
that it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But it's the fact that he's 6, instead of 8 or 7, which is a big deal to me. Like, just because it seems like that's a number that I'm always left with.
Right.
So.
Yeah, Wheeljack 10. This guy has a thing.
I mean that's possible, but a lot of the 10s are no better than some of the 9s. So.
Well.
It's not that it's a big deal. It's more that it's 13 and 2 6s or 12 and 12 6 and 7 because 7's a popular number for Battle Masters and things like that. But I mean this is one too. This will see play. I think it's good.
Yeah. The reason why I brought up the Wheeljack 10 was just because of the double Grimlock build because it's another option. Now whether it would displace Prowl because he's a specialist and blah 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 is a more involved discussion, but it at least gives you an alternative. And then randomly having this guy dying going on Grimlock is probably going to feel pretty good.
Yeah, you definitely need to play one shot stand in your deck if you play this guy because the 9 can be difficult for your opponent to take out even on the first attack, even if they are going first.
Right.
I mean, if you're going first. So if you want him to die and so can attack and die, like you need to have a way to do that yourself.
Oh yeah, I can't picture this guy is your opponent's going to walk into it unless they have a good a good reason, air quotes, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah.
But I expect any of the battle masters are going to be featuring One Shall Stand, or I guess if we want to be wild, Photon Bomb, but that's a reach. Some of those self-harming effects.
Yeah, I think this guy, along with the triple blue guy, are well, the triple blue guy will not be a combo with this, but like our reason, like incoming transmission doesn't see as much play anymore, and I think like this is definitely a guy you want to run with incoming transmission.
Oh yeah, for sure, and especially
this is a good.
Good.
This is a good use for my spinner rims card.
There it is, folks. Format solved before it even came out. There you go. I mean, to the incoming transmission point, and I guess to a lesser extent, spinner rims. They
work together.
Yes, the nature of white pips also it's going to help you find the other ones too.
Yes,
which is obvious, but it's a point to bring up. So, okay, incoming transmission, the white pip on top to activate this is much more likely. Maybe you don't have to necessarily go beyond that, depending on what the ratio of the deck is. So,
yeah, you need to put yourself in that kind of situation because you're right. Like the combat that this guy has, which is like, let's just say it's in 3 wide, is only going to happen, like you said, like once, or if you quartermaster him over twice. Like every other combat, let's just say you flip 2 orange and 2 white. It's going to be +2 for everybody else, even if, let's just say, you're always attacking a 2 defense guy, for arguments. Like, this guy will be +5.
Yeah.
But everybody else is just going to be, everybody, like, your combat flip for him essentially gives you +4. For everybody else, it's just +2. And, like, you're actually, I mean, I guess you're even because, like, you technically only flipped, quote, 2 cards, and then you got a crit that really didn't get you there. But, like, it doesn't, you're right, it doesn't do as much.
There is a concern I have to that end of, okay, so you're playing One Shall Stands, you're playing, hypothetically, an above average amount of white pips, so it does add evidence to that argument of, okay, are you going overboard, or should the assumption be maybe post-sideboard you board in more white pips because you're playing against high defense characters, sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's only one card we've ever seen that has like a white and an orange on it, so like, that would obviously help. But yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I think that ability is nice to have, and it'll happen. I've definitely had it happen on attack where you get like double white and things like that.
Absolutely.
But so I think it's fine as a +3, and it obviously will be amazing anytime you get the ability to go off. If it doesn't hurt you in other combats, I think it's great. Yeah,
it's something that I think plays right into your wheelhouse of run the numbers for everybody, and everyone's just going to steal your work.
Yes, fair.
Now, that being said, there are going to be higher defense characters that we kind of anticipate going in, especially early on. People are going to gravitate towards, like, the new Shockwave, for example. This guy may be, maybe not the answer, but an answer for those sort of scenarios.
I mean, yeah, you're going to get a giant weapon.
Exactly. So that actually closes it up for the characters, everybody. Any other thoughts before we close this portion out, Scott?
No, I think a lot of the characters are good. So
yeah, I'm very anxious to get this set in my hands. I'm very excited about a lot of the characters, and it's kind of rejuvenated for me and added interest in the game as a whole again, because I'm really excited to actually sleeve some of these up and try them out. So,
yeah.
Like I said, that'll do it for this portion. As I mentioned a few times earlier, we're splitting this into 2, so definitely check out part 2. We appreciate everyone listening. Thank you for watching, and please tune in next time for more Random's Thoughts.